What's good, y'all? Today I wanted to talk about something that I find really interesting, and that is the relationship that car enthusiasts have with their daily drivers. Now, for those who may not completely understand, a daily driver is exactly what it sounds like. It's the vehicle that you drive every single day. It can be a car, a truck, a motorcycle, a bicycle, just anything like that that you drive every day. But today we're going to be mostly focusing on the four-wheeled stuff. For a lot of normal people, there's not really much to say about these things. It kind of just stops there, you know, this is just a tool that you use to get to work, to get to class, do that kind of thing. You don't really think about it a whole lot. But for car enthusiasts, it's a little bit more complicated, and I'm going to explain why. But real quick, I just want to run through this list I made that's kind of a list of requirements, I guess you could say, of what I would consider a car to need in order to be considered a good daily driver. So let's go through these real quick. First off, at the very top, reliability. This one is kind of the most obvious thing. You know, like I said before, this is what you're going to be driving every single day, so you really don't want this car to be breaking down. Like, imagine you're already late for class or for work. You know what? Screw all that. Imagine you got the bubble gut and your shit breaks down on you. So definitely the most important thing, you want this vehicle to be reliable. Second, easy to drive. This one isn't really gonna make a whole lot of sense right now, but it will in a little bit. You kind of just want to be able to get in it and go, basically. Third thing, comfortability. You're going to be spending a lot of time in this thing, so you at least want it to be an enjoyable or at least not a negative experience. And when I'm talking about comfort, I don't mean things just like the suspension has a really smooth ride or like the seats are comfy. I'm kind of also including other like creature comforts like working air conditioning or working radio. Pretty much just things like that that will make your experience driving the vehicle not horrible. The next thing is practicality. This one is kind of dependent on your situation. If you're kind of just using this thing to go to class or go to work or just do some regular grocery shopping, you probably don't need anything more than like a sedan or a hatchback. But if you're doing like more labor intensive work or you're hauling stuff around, then you might need a truck. But it's all kind of the same. Basically, you just want this thing to serve its purpose well in whatever situation you're in. And the last thing is kind of dictated by the previous requirement. It is fuel efficiency. If you need to drive a truck, then this is probably not going to be a huge concern for you because trucks, you know, tend to be not as fuel efficient. But if you have a vehicle that is really fuel efficient, this definitely, you know, adds points in the requirement list. But these are basically all of the prerequisites, I guess, to what would make a car a good daily, in my opinion. We're just going to keep this in mind because it's going to be very relevant for the rest of the video. So just kind of keep these in the back of your head. But next, I kind of had to explain why a daily is so significant for car enthusiasts. So as individuals who are interested in these four-wheeled pieces of metal, the one thing that we like to do more than anything is to touch them.
Whoa, now.
And even though doing that is a lot of fun and oftentimes makes the car look cooler, you know, sound cooler, makes it more fun to drive, that kind of thing, it kind of comes at the trade-off of these cars not being as dailyable anymore. For example, let's bring up my Mark IV Volkswagen Jetta. This car actually started off as a pretty good daily. That's actually what I bought it for originally. But then, you know, and then I got my greasy mitts all over it. Let's real quickly bring the list back in that I made and just kind of compare the wagon to it and see how good of a daily this car is. First off, reliability. Well, this car is unfortunately a Mark IV Volkswagen. So, you know, in all seriousness though, this car had the 2-liter 4-cylinder in it. So, I mean, engine-wise, it's pretty solid. But, you know, there's a lot of other things going on here that make the car less reliable than it normally would be. Second, easy to drive. Well, I'm sure it's kind of obvious just by looking at this car. All right, this car is static. It's not on air suspension, it's on coilovers. So, you know, I have to be really mindful of things like the road conditions and like how crazy entrances to establishments are. There's a lot of thought that goes into driving this car. I set off the airbags on this thing because I hit a bump on the freeway. So yeah, you know, I think we can just cross that one right off. Next, comfort. Like I said before, this thing is on coilovers and they are really stiff. Aside from that, the tires have a very thin sidewall on them and they have a lot of pressure in them because of how stretched they are. So you feel everything. You feel everything. Aside from all that, the car also does not have working AC. So, you know, we'll just cross that one off too. Next, practicality. And, you know, at a first glance, you might look at this car and go, hey, you know what? You know, it's a station wagon, right? Like, that has to be pretty practical, you feel me? Like, and in terms of like storage space, it is, you know, it's pretty nice. But if we take into account what I said earlier, you know, about it being really stiff, it kind of doesn't make it very practical anymore. Practicality is more than just, the storage space that it has. It also has to do with you being able to take it everywhere. And I obviously can't take this car everywhere. So yeah, it's not very practical. And lastly, fuel efficiency. And you know what? Like I said, 4-cylinder, this car is pretty fuel efficient. So I think I'm gonna give myself that one. But if we, take a look here, we can see that we're not doing too good. There was a time back in the day when I did used to daily this car, and that's when it had like less camber and it wasn't as low. And even then it wasn't that fun to drive. So you can only imagine how much less fun it is to drive now. There are times when daily driving your project car is the only option you have. Like, maybe let's say you're a younger person and you can't afford another car, or you don't have the space for another car, or maybe you just can't own another car for any other reason. So, in that scenario, it kind of is what it is. You got to do what you got to do. Or maybe you're also just one of those people who thinks that dailying a raggedy ass project car is some kind of flex, which, I mean, I wouldn't personally consider putting yourself through that kind of torment a flex, but you do you, I guess. Anyways, this is when getting a daily would be really useful. You have your cool, fun, crazy car that you drive occasionally, and then you have the more chill, more reserved car that you can just get in it and go, and you're not stressed about something going wrong or anything else like that. In theory, this is the car that you should not touch. You're supposed to just leave this thing alone, right? It's just the car that gets you from point A to point B. And if you want to like have some fun every now and then, or just, flex on the hose on the way to the club or something like that.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Then you pull this thing out. But this car is not supposed to be messed with. This is the car that's supposed to stay comfy. It's supposed to stay reliable. It's supposed to, comply mostly with a lot of the things on the list that I made. But, car enthusiasts, we just can't keep our hands to ourselves. Modifying a vehicle usually has some negative effects to the car. I'm not talking about like changing the stereo out or like adding those ugly ass stick-on vortex creators on the roof or something like that. I'm talking about the more major things, obviously, like even just throwing coilovers on it or an exhaust. Anything major that you touch, that you mess with, that you swap out at all, has a risk of failing. And that could be for a number of reasons. They could fail because maybe the part just is low quality, or you just got a bad batch and it just went bad. Or maybe you just didn't do something right when you were installing it, and now it fails. Another example, here is my daily driver. It's a 2007 BMW 335i. In all fairness, I did keep this car stock for a good while, and I meant to keep it stock for a good amount of time. And then I got rear-ended on my way home from work. And shit, like my insurance low-key hooked it up, I can't lie. And all that money was burning an awfully big hole in my pocket. So, I couldn't help myself, now this car is full bolt-on, minus the catless downpipes, has a tune, and has coilovers and wheels on it. If you throw like coilovers on your car, then the chances of something going wrong if you have a good quality set of coilovers isn't that high. But usually touching anything in regards to the engine is going to affect the reliability. Like if you're pushing more power or like more boost in like a turbocharged car, that's more heat and more added stress to the engine components. And you're pretty much just accelerating the wear of things. And this being a BMW, they have their cooling issues. So that's always a problem with these. In my opinion though, is it dumb? Is it irresponsible? Yes, it is. But I think it's worth it. I love this car now. I loved it before, and I love it even more now. And hey, look, I'm not the only one that's guilty of this, all right? This is a pretty common thing for car enthusiasts to do for some reason. Like, let's take a look at my buddy Isaiah's BMW 328i. Again, pretty modest daily, right? It's a cool car. The 328s, naturally aspirated, they're pretty reliable. And then, boom. My buddy Brandon with his Toyota Cressida. Boom. And my friend Andy with his Toyota Avalon, right? This is a pinnacle grandma car. Simple, big, four-door Toyota. Nothing crazy, super boring to look at. Boom. All of these cars started off as regular, unassuming cars that a grandma would usually drive. And remember, these are the cars that are supposed to be left alone. These cars are just supposed to sit there and do their thing, while we put all our time and money into the project cars.
I also forgot to mention this here, but I want to make it known that these guys entered their so-called daily drivers into a car show. And Brandon won an award for his Cressida.
There definitely are car enthusiasts out there that I know personally as well who do have the self-control to just not touch their daily drivers, but more often than not, this is not the case. So then why is that? Well, for me personally, I would say that it kind of has a lot to do with why I'm a car guy in the first place. Cars for us are like what clothes are to people who are really into fashion, or like an instrument to a musician, or art to an artist. It's a form of expression for us. It's like an extension of our personality. A completely unmodified car like this, to us, is like a totally blank canvas. And it's calling out to us. It's yearning to be painted on. And us, we're just too weak-minded. We're too easily persuaded. Car guys are really dumb. Okay, like I said before, we know that this is not the right way to go about things, but I mean, come on, like this shit goes hard, bro. I wanted to get a couple more opinions on the matter though, so you guys don't think I'm the only psychotic, mentally ill person. So I invited my buddies to a call so I can ask them a couple questions and discuss the matter a little bit. Hey guys. Editing track here. Just popping in to apologize for a couple things real quick. First of all, when I recorded this section, I was sick. I had a cold or something like that, so you could definitely hear it. I sound even more nasally and annoying than I already do. But if my voice sounds scratchy or if my nose sounds like it's stuffed, it's because it is. Second thing, my voice audio is gonna be a little inconsistent. Like it's kind of louder at some point, and also you hear like the and stuff. There's a lot of like those airy P's and stuff in there. That's because for that I use this microphone, which is hooked up to my computer right now. This microphone is really weird. It's super like not sensitive. You have to be really close to it for it to pick up your voice at a decent volume. I don't use this one for this stuff. Obviously I use the one that I'm holding up to my mouth right now because this one actually can pick up my voice pretty well with the fursuit on. If I use this microphone for what I'm doing right now, you wouldn't be able to hear me at all. So like I said, you have to get really close to it for it to pick up your voice pretty well. So I'm sorry that the audio is a little ass for this next part, but please just bear with me. Anyways, let's get on with it.
All right, let's see. Let me go ahead and start this. I mean, I guess I kind of already mentioned you guys, but like we can go ahead and like introduce y'all to your name and what you drive, like what your daily is.
I'm Isaiah. I drive the white E90.
My name's Andy, and I drive the Toyota Avalon.
What up? My name is Brandon. I drive my 1989 Toyota Cressida.
We all have like a project car, like a main project car that's like the car that, you know, is not really the best thing to drive every day. So first of all, I just want to ask, like, how important is like a daily to you guys?
See, I need a daily so I can get my ass to work. That's literally the main reason why I drive the shit every day. I gotta get my ass to work, make money so I don't be broke in the United States of America because times are tough.
I feel like I just need something for like when the weather is bad and I can't take my motorcycle.
Oh, you're right. I also daily did my damn motorcycle too, but yeah. I'll take a car.
Or if I need to do like grocery shopping that requires more space than a backpack.
For me, it's a very big deal because especially like since you guys are farther away from me, I need something that will not threaten to blow up every single time I go to hang out. Like I need something that is somewhat more reliable. Having a daily is important.
Yeah, that's like the biggest thing, right? Because I feel like the project cars that we have aren't really like, you know, there's kind of some stress involved with driving that.
When I was talking about like when I first got the E90 and every single time I would mention, I'd be like, bro, it's just so nice to be able to put it in drive and then drive home instead of having to like
an automatic daily, even better.
Yeah, even better, literally. Because instead of having to like worry about everything rattling, everything's loud, everything's shaking.
Have something comfy, something chill.
Yeah, for real.
Crazy.
So with that being said, like how good of a daily do you guys think your dailies are?
Still, my Cressida, I used to like really daily yet, but I got like hella cars right now, so it's just kind of been sitting. But when I used to daily it was pretty good, and I even drove it like in like really like shitbox stages too, like no lights, like no corner lights, no mirrors. I had like no seats for a little bit, but like reliability wise it's pretty good. And then the engine, people say it's like really bad, or oh, it's a 7M, you're gonna blow a head gasket. That has yet to happen. I have blown up every single coolant hose on that thing, but the freaking head gasket hasn't blown up.
You kind of also mentioned, you said you drove it with like no mirrors and no corner lights and
no mirrors, no corner lights. Okay, like freaking half the interior, no clear coat. It was just paint, primer.
Do you think in that condition that car is a good daily?
Hell yeah, it's good.
With no mirrors.
The heater works. The music works. That's all I need, really.
I mean, I guess so.
You know, before I slammed the Avalon on its nuts, it was pretty good.
In its original form.
Yeah, in its original like stock form, it was amazing daily. Super comfortable, heated, cooled seats. You know, super reliable, super comfy, very roomy on the inside, even though it's low kind of small when you compare it to newer cars. And you know, the gas mileage was pretty good. Make it to Vegas on one tank.
But like you probably say like, you know, after doing what you did to it probably has kind of decreased how good of a daily it is.
Yeah, that's my fault though, not gonna lie, but you know.
Yeah.
Before I lowered it, it still had sway bars. It no longer has sway bars. I don't know why. Maybe it's because of just like how the vehicle is. It was never meant to be like modified. But every time I lower it, I go through a wheel bearing.
Yeah, it's like the manufacturer didn't expect someone to do that, huh?
Yeah, literally. So I'm like, I just replaced both wheel bearings on it again, and then I did that. It was either last year or the year before.
I mean, it's a similar situation of like stuff has definitely changed since I've done some stuff with it, but it does have the N52, which is a pretty reliable engine. In the I'd say almost 2 years since I've owned it, I've only had to replace the ABS sensors.
Yeah, but like the modifying part is kind of when things start to kind of like
They go a little downhill, yeah. Because
Yeah.
now I've got a little extra like not rattling, but like some clunking here and there. And then I'm sure we all experience when we go over bumps.
If I did a more like reasonable like lower, just kind of like reduce the wheel gap instead of having like it slammed, I honestly think it'd still be really good. But since I decided to like slam it, I think that's what kind of ruined it.
Yeah, your guys' cars, you got them at stock. I bought my car already kind of in a modified state. It was already lowered.
The thing with your Cressida though is like, when you first got it, it was just like the stock white paint. It was kind of like still normal looking, like it had the stock wheels, all that. But then once you put wheels on it, and then once you repainted it, now it's kind of like you kind of start to care more because you have like a fresh paint job on it and stuff. You know what I mean? So with that being said, like, do you think that the daily is supposed to be stock? Like, is it supposed to remain stock?
No. For me, as a person who would like to play around with the car daily, just do a little bit here and there. Visual looks, maybe make it ride a little
same.
better. Just very small visual thing. Example, look at my truck. Very, very minimal.
Yeah, just
stuff
like
the
a
same.
simple modification, maybe like a little bit of low and wheels or something, but not like you're stressed about driving it low like I did with the Avalon, because like now I low-key don't want to drive it if I can.
I say like absolutely do something with it, just because I personally, it just makes me so happy like when I own a vehicle that I can do something to, like even if it is minor stuff. But I'm sure a lot of car guys can understand that, like doing some visual stuff, doing little things, even if it's nothing major, still makes us way happier than having it just fully bone stock.
Yeah, we gotta personalize a little bit.
Yeah, personalized as an extension of yourself. Because you go to the dealership, all these cars look the same, or you go out in the parking lot, oh, this car looks like that car over there. But our cars, you can pretty much identify who's who just by like whatever's done to it.
That's kind of what I was saying, what I've said before too. Like, it definitely is kind of like pretty much exactly what Brandon says. It's like a way for us to express ourselves, so it's kind of hard to like not do
Yeah.
something to it.
It's how we express ourselves as car people.
I guess the next thing I was gonna ask was like, why did you modify your daily? But I guess it kind of already got answered. Like, it's pretty much just a form of self-expression, that kind of thing. We kind of, especially like you Andy with your Avalon, and you Isaiah, you kind of did say a couple things too. But like, we kind of acknowledged that like once you touch your daily driver, it kind of starts to not be that good of a daily anymore. Even just like lowering it, it kind of adds like a level of like, you have to be more mindful of how you're driving it now. Why do you think it's so hard for like car people to just leave their dailies alone then?
I think it's just the act of just doing something to the car, because like car people with their cool car, they like playing around with it, and then they get their daily, and then in our minds, I think, okay, I'm gonna leave this thing alone, and then all of a sudden, boom, I did something to it. Boom, I did something to it. The act of you wanting to do something like you shouldn't, but then you end up doing it anyway because you just want to.
The responsible thing to do would just to be like you said, just to leave it alone. Like, that car is just the car that you just drive to work, and like your money and your energy is supposed to go into your project, but for some reason we still put some of it into our dailies.
I think it's like low-key the fact like we're always around modified cars, like like being in like a car person like lifestyle, like your project car is always modified, but you're also around like modified cars through like all your friends and like meets and stuff, where like you can't just look at a car, especially if you own it, right?
You
can't
feel
just
left
have
out.
that and then just have it be completely untouched. The urge to have to modify it just because of like how everything around us is so modified.
I would say a big thing too is like in comparison to car people and non-car people do just drive cars to get from point A to point B, and you know they hate traffic, they hate driving in general most of the time. At least a lot of people I know, they just want to get there and back and get out of their cars and whatever. But us being car guys, the whole trip we just enjoy just because we enjoy being in our cars and driving our cars. And so I guess like especially for me, like sitting while I'm driving in my car, I'm like I enjoy driving this, so like what if I swapped out the seats to be like something different, because I think that would just be cool, and then it's like continues on from that. And I think that's just how car people think as well in general. They're like, I enjoy driving it, and so since they build a better connection with the vehicle, they're like, I want to personalize it a little more just for my enjoyment, just going from home to work and so on.
I guess you could also say that you want to make it like more interesting to drive. You want to make it more fun to drive. We're used to driving modified cars and like being around them, so it's like once you hop into like a stock normal car, it's like too boring almost.
Yeah, like I was saying,
I
it's
think
just
of
so
it like-
bland, you know, having a stock car is just so bland.
Yeah, I think of it as you're losing feeling, because you hop in this regular ass car, there's no feeling. But then you hop in something that has like a little bit of like, you know, stuff done to it, there's a little bit more feeling to it. Example, exhaust, you hear things. Sometimes you got no cat, you can smell things, and then more vibration, you feel it more.
Yeah, you feel more connected, I guess, to the car almost. It's like what's that thing? They're like when you park a car like at a grocery store or whatever, and you don't look back at it as you walk in, you bought the wrong car.
It kind of seems like it really just kind of, I don't know, it just kind of boils down to like that whole car enthusiast mentality that we have, where like we just, no matter what, seem to have like some personal connection to our vehicles.
Yeah.
So even if it is just
we
like
always have to tinker with things, you know? We can't just leave anything alone.
even if the car is just like a normal ass, like a Toyota Corolla or something like that, it's like, I don't know, I just want to still enhance my experience with this thing.
Yeah, enhance the experience, make it look cool, make it feel better, whatever it is you feel like doing, we just end up doing it.
What you said about enhancing the experience, I feel like that was such like a good way to put it. It's like, because what I was saying, like normal people don't care about enhancing their driving experience. They just want to get to work, get out of the car, and whatever, continue on with their day. But us enjoying cars so much, we're like, how can I just make this better for me?
Definitely some really good insight, really good answers, honestly. I definitely appreciate y'all, taking the time to answer these questions. Well, guys, if you want the answer to why our project cars sit on jack stands for years, that's why.
Don't worry, Track, I got you.
For years, that's why.
So really what it boils down to is pretty much what I said before. It's a form of expression for us. It's a way for us to express ourselves. It's a way for us to connect even more with something that is already a really big part of our lives. You know, we're in this car constantly. We're spending a lot of time with this thing. Us as car guys, we already established a really deep connection with any vehicle that we own. So this for us just kind of helps build an even more personal relationship with these things. But I think it's fair to say that we're just really stupid and we're really bad at making financially responsible decisions. All right, see y'all later.